Good afternoon, sir.
Hello.
How are you?
Fine, you?
Good.
Good.
Doing a convention?
I'm John.
Nice to meet you, John.
You're John? John. Used to be the second most popular male name in the world,
Yeah, I know.
behind Muhammad.
But we lost popularity somewhere.
We did, yeah. I think Muhammad's still number one, but I think John slipped to 4 or 5 somewhere.
I'm thinking we can make a comeback at some point.
Well, I'll try to do my best to have more children and name them John. Even the girls.
All right. What can you tell us about season 2 coming up?
Well, sort of more of the same, but better in a way, because I was telling the other table that, the first season, so much of the conflict in this show was about the personalities of all of these people that have come together to have to work together. And certainly Jenkins would be very happy if they would just all go to hell away. But by the end of season 1, we've kind of overcome the personality conflicts that might exist between any group of people that come together to work. And so those hurdles don't have to be jumped anymore. We come back together in season 2 as a team, as a real, to use a much hackneyed word, family, dysfunctional as it may be. And so the adventures and the dilemmas that we have to try and solve to save the world from magic being in the wrong hands becomes more of the thrust, as opposed to who are you, why the hell are you here kind of stories.
So what was your favorite moment from season 1?
I think at the end, having Jenkins has to have this sword fight to sort of save the day, and actually fights his father, as we find out, the young version of his father. And Jerry O'Donnell got to do that part, Rebecca's husband, and I love doing that. I love sword fighting. Second time I've sword fought. The first time was on stage when I was a very young actor in a play, but it was fun. It was nice to be able to just be athletic that way for a minute.
You got to channel your inner Errol Flynn.
Yeah, deeply buried Errol Flynn, one of more my inner Wallace Beery, but yes, fine. I'll take Errol Flynn over Wallace Beery.
You mentioned when you were doing plays when you were younger. Recently, you've been going back and forth between Broadway and TV, and do those two things inform each other? Your work on this show?
Yeah, sure. Acting is there's only 3 places I can do what I do: TV, movies, or the stage. I guess I could stand on the corner in 4th Street Promenade and recite Samuel Beckett characters and have a hat. I don't know how well I would do. But so all of them inform each other because it's all basically the same job. I mean, it's different disciplines in your stamina, I think. In TV, you can just be balls out 100% of the time because nothing lasts longer than 2 minutes. And you're going to stop filming, you're going to take a break, and you're going to start again. Same with movies, although movies are more of a mini marathon, I think. And stage is a marathon because once the curtain goes up, it's yours for 2.5 hours. Nobody can stop you, and you shouldn't stop. It's not a good thing to stop once you start. And as far as going back and forth, I did a lot of stage as a young man. It's where I sort of learned to act in LA. Once I got successful, I had no time for stage. And I had been asked by some of the greatest writers of Broadway, Neil Simon, Herb Gardner, to come to Broadway to do something, and I couldn't because I didn't have enough time off. You can't. No producer wants to hire you for 3 months to do a play because if it's successful, you don't want the star leaving in the midst of that success. So I had to avoid it until the end of the series that I did with James Spader, Boston Legal. I took time off and I said I'm going to go to New York and see if anybody would care if I showed up. And I was offered an off-Broadway play, which is a perfect entry level for me to get to. I'd never worked in New York. First time I came to New York was to host Saturday Night Live. Never been here before that. I mean, as far as working, I'd been here to do talk shows to promote my seasons of Night Court and Larroquette, etc., but never had been here as an actor. And I did the off-Broadway play, which was a great experience. And then all of a sudden, this How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying comes across my desk, and I say, well, hold on a second. I get to work with who for a year if it's successful? I jumped at the chance. My first Broadway play, I got to be with Daniel Radcliffe for a year every night on stage. It was a spectacular experience. And the good graces of God, I won a Tony for my first Broadway play. So it sort of spoils you. I mean, where do you go from there? And where I went from there was I got to be on stage for 8 months with James Earl Jones, and Angela Lansbury, and Candice Bergen, Michael McKean. So it's been a cornucopia of blessings for me and stage, and I want to repeat that. The experience, not necessarily the accolades, but I'd love to be back on the stage here at some point when I have the time. Sorry, that was a very long-winded answer.
So we saw the lid sort of break down Jenkins over the season. Is he going to toughen up again?
after what happened in the finale, or are we going to see him continuously soften down?
Yeah, I think he becomes more amenable to them, and I think his affection for them becomes more evident as the season goes on. And he has a particular, I think, soft spot for all of them, individually and as a group. And he sees that their hearts are in the right place. And he still understands that he considers them neophytes still, I believe, but not amateurs any longer. And so he cares for them, and we see him go out of his way to try and help them and save them when he can. So yes, he loves them now, in his way. He can't love anybody too much. I just watched, not a great movie, but The Age of Adeline, I think it's called. How this person is, stopped aging at 29 and it's 80 years later. With somebody like Jenkins, and again, this is the kind of crap that an actor writes to themselves and doesn't share it very often. But Jenkins has never, for maybe 800 or 900 years, has not had a real relationship, fully informed relationship, because they're going to die. He's not. So to truly, it's like owning a dog. You know the dog's going to die before you. So it's difficult to give yourself completely and utterly, shamelessly and selflessly to a relationship like that, because you know it's temporary. So his affection is guarded because of that. That's, again, the actor story that I tell myself.
What do you think that the fans are going to love the most about season 2?
Well, I guess the effects are better, the stories are bigger and broader and more. There's much more at stake, and the things that people tune in to watch this show for, I believe, will just be there in spades. And the idea that everybody can still sit down together and watch it, which is, maybe a hackneyed phrase, but it's family friendly.
One more question.
No? All right. Adios.
No, I got it.
Oh, yeah.
Considering your rich history in TV and episodic on TV throughout the years, how does playing this character differ from all the other shows that you've done? Obviously, you set aside the magic and all things.
Well, just the character, every job is unique, even though it's still in front of some cameras and there's a guy telling you to start acting and then stop acting. I don't approach anything the same because I'm not very well trained, as I said before. So I approach it in the moment. I take Jason Robards' advice when he said, if it's not on the page, it's not on the stage. I do have a weird little habit, and my wife has always gone, why? Because if my character doesn't know what's going on in the script, I don't know. I don't have to know. I don't read scenes that I'm not in unless they affect my character, because that's information that my guy doesn't need. So every character is that. It's that enclosed world that I create in order to be able to relate to everybody else in the. But as far as the working thing is concerned, they're all the same. Show up, know your lines. As Spencer Tracy said, know your lines and don't bump into the furniture. Okay?
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Have a good day.